Ratchet Clank was a 3D platformer and shooter released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2. If you're a fan of this series, good news, it's going to get brought up a lot on this channel. It was a formative gaming memory for me. Anyway, the series starred a fuzzy fictional creature called a Lombax alongside a small robot companion as they fought their way through a fun sci-fi adventure. This game would launch a series that I and many others consider one of the greatest in all of gaming. The series' identity has always been found in the zany weapons available to purchase throughout the game. These weapons were all made by the fictional company Gadgetron, in the first and third titles at least. It's a whole thing, we'll get into it. Anyway, one planet on the first game has you visit Gadgetron's headquarters. While here, you can find someone who appears to be some kind of higher up in the company. He encourages you to participate in a hoverboard tournament. Upon winning the tournament, barely, because this part was always so hard as a kid, this interaction takes place between Ratchet, Clank, and the Gadgetron employee.
That was terrific! Now I just need you to say a few words about our hot new boards.
Huh? Now?
Of course. Just look into that camera right over there and say what comes naturally. Rolling!
Hi. This is Ratchet for, Gadgetron hoverboards. And if you,
Yo, dudes, for the freshest boards in the galaxy, check out the new XZ88 from Gadgetron. It's so hot, it's cool.
I think I got the wrong guy. That was something.
Hey, I was thinking, do I get a discount on gadgets now?
You have to be with the company for 2 years before the employee discount kicks in.
This seems like throwaway dialogue, and most players would forget about this joke entirely.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Flash forward to Ratchet Clank 2 going Commando. This game takes place in the Bogon Galaxy instead of the Solana Galaxy where the first game took place. Here, Gadgetron lost out big time to a new competitor, Megacorp. I won't delve into their whole deal to avoid spoilers, although I guess why do I care for a game that's over 20 years old at this point? Wait, that can't be. Oh my god. Thoughts of my own mortality aside, all you need to know is Gadgetron does so poorly in the Bogon Galaxy that the only place you really see their presence is an abandoned Gadgetron factory. Here, you can find a robot lady selling old Gadgetron tech, the same tech you used in the first game to be exact. Now, these weapons aren't great. They don't upgrade like the new Megacorp weapons, so spending your money just to mess around with these in the sequel might not be worth it. Unless you didn't need to spend anything at all. See, if the memory card you're currently using also has data from Ratchet & Clank 1 on it, any weapons available here that you purchased in the first game will be completely free. Now, these weapons are only really useful for the next few planets of the game, but it's a nice way of injecting variety early into the gameplay experience where you might not have as many weapon choices, while also rewarding those who spent time saving up the bolts to buy those weapons in the first game. Bolts are the currency in this universe, by the way. Don't question it, it's an aesthetic thing. This trend carried on into the third game as well. On the water planet of Aquados, you can meet a character called Slim Cognito, who appears occasionally in the second game as well. He will give you access to free weapons from 2 using a similar system to the Gadgetron lady in the last game, although this time, they remain useful throughout the whole game, with weapons like the Bouncer and the Shield Charger being some of the best in the game 2 games in a row. And now, you can get them for free.
But wait! There's more!
Remember our old dinosaur-looking friend? He wasn't just talking out of his ass. If you go to the Gadgetron weapon vendor on the Starship Phoenix, the game can scan your memory card for Ratchet & Clank 1 data. Upon finding this data, you will be given a 10% discount on every weapon in the game. You also receive a classic Ratchet skin if the armored Lombax look really isn't your thing. Reading other games' memory card data isn't anything new to the PS2 era. Psycho Mantis did this in Metal Gear Solid 1 a whole console generation earlier. He messes with the player by telling them other games they had played previously.
You like Castlevania, don't you? You enjoy role-playing games. I see that you enjoy Konami games.
But the way that these 3 connect is so cool to me, and when I come back to them, I usually end up playing through all of them in sequence because of this. When I learned about this concept, I was so excited to see how it would carry on into the future of gaming. And boy would I be disappointed at how little it really caught on. Now, there are some obvious examples of something like this being utilized in modern games. If you're a fan of sci-fi or RPGs, you're probably thinking of Mass Effect right now. Mass Effect involves making a lot of tough decisions whose consequences stay with you. To further this concept, these decisions will alter the events of the sequels as well, using your previous save data to confirm what choices you made previously. The Dragon Age and Witcher series both have something similar to this from what I understand. I love this concept so much, and it really feels like a natural progression of this idea. Pokemon provides a similar experience in the way that you can transfer Pokemon themselves. If you were determined enough and had all the proper systems, games, and cables necessary, you could get a Pokemon that you raised from the Game Boy Advance all the way to the current generation of Pokemon, provided that the Pokemon itself is available in that game's Pokédex. While this isn't necessarily a reward for playing previous games, it's incredibly cool that this is an option, and that the Pokemon themselves have been so well preserved. But sadly, this is one great example in a sea of much less interesting rewards for playing the previous title. These days, most of the time, you're given a skin or a weapon for playing the previous game, and in most cases, it won't feel impactful enough to really mean anything. Most of the time, these rewards are not designed to be used throughout the whole game since you're given them right at the start. But why is that? Having more excuses to reward the player seems like a good thing, and you definitely want to acknowledge those who have stuck with your series for a long time, so why limit these rewards? Well, for starters, publishers want to sell games. Getting people to go outside of their comfort zone of games they usually like is hard, and it's even harder when it's a long-running series. When people see a 3 or a 4 next to a title, it can be easy to assume that you could never jump into it without having seen everything that came before it. This isn't always the case. Persona 5 was my first of the series, and I've worked backwards from there. I've never felt confused by anything, as these games weren't designed with a connected storyline. Companies are constantly bending over backwards with their marketing to assure players they won't be lost trying to experience their brand new $70 game. However, the reality is you might have just as much fun with the first game in the series and get more context for the story, and you can get it for $20 used. But then the company doesn't really make anything off that purchase, now do they? Developers are moving away from having their series have a rigid, connected plot in between their games. If they aren't trying to incentivize players playing the previous title, special rewards for longtime players fall within the realm of not very important. Why put time into meaningful rewards like that when more and more players are skipping ahead in long-running series? Another problem is changing technology. Ratchet & Clank 1 through 3 could work this system in because all of the games were on the same console, so the data was all saved to the same memory card. But future games? A PlayStation 3 has no way of reading PlayStation 2 data without extra hardware, so this feature was just cut. Then the PlayStation 3's future models stopped supporting backwards compatibility with the PS2 altogether due to high failure rates and costly manufacturing. The PlayStation 3 Ratchet titles went on to make this feature significantly less important between the games. I'm still a little salty that Crack in Time only gave you discounts with the weapons from Tools of Destruction instead of giving them to you for free, but I suppose that may have been better for the game's balance in the long run. This problem gets more complicated almost immediately when you're thinking through the logistics of this. Game takes so much longer to make now, so the odds of the technology surrounding the last game being outdated by the time the new one comes out are actually pretty high. If someone got GTA 5 on the Xbox 360, and then GTA 6 comes out on the Series X, then yeah, no chance that save is transferable. I know cloud-based saving is becoming more of a thing across all consoles, but do you really trust them to back up all of your files perfectly? Also, games are getting bigger. And I'm not just talking about the maps, although that's a problem in itself. I'm talking about file sizes. The new Call of Duty is just under 150 gigabytes of space. That's just one game. That's almost a tenth of my Xbox. Game saves themselves don't take up too much space, but it isn't too crazy to assume that these files could be transferred around or deleted, as room will inevitably need to be made on your console or PC. This would then make it impossible for the sequel to find the previous game's data if it's no longer on your console. Trophy or achievement data is a possible workaround. However, this only works for the two companies that actually utilize systems like this, and this is assuming that Xbox Live and the PlayStation Network continue to work as they have in the past with migrating achievements and trophies across systems. Connecting unlockable content in a game behind the earned trophies or achievements of the account playing certainly seems possible, but I don't think developers really want to rely on this potentially buggy trophy or achievement system to distribute a cool hidden feature like this. So, a feature that I fell in love with as a kid did not become the widely adopted standard that I assumed it would. Wow. Regardless, it was a cool relic of the past. Wherever game developers can, I still suggest rewarding players who come back to your new game with a little something if they played the previous entry. Everyone loves to have their work acknowledged, even if that work is just playing through Yakuza Kiwami 1 instead of Kiwami 2 first. But I understand that with the gaming industry constantly changing, sometimes entire mechanics are less relevant due to changing tastes and trends. I just wanted to highlight a system that I thought was cool. And even if implementing it makes less and less sense as time goes on, I would love to see it wherever possible, and have that feeling of surprise and acknowledgement all over again.